Hello Kaiju fans, welcome back to the Kaiju World Order. My name is MM, and this is Monster of the Week, where, just as it sounds, Monster of the Week, I'm about to talk about a monster that was voted on by members of the Kaiju Hugbox. You can join that by just following the links of this channel, and then you can vote for the next one, which these are like about a week or two behind whenever the new polls go up. But regardless, this week's monster is Therizirus or Therizirus. I'm not exactly sure which one it is. It is a newer monster. It stems from last year's Ultraman Omega series in episode 4 and is the first ever official Therizinosaurus Kaiju. Most likely inspired by somebody over at Subaraya watching Jurassic World Dominion and seeing that thing and being that would make a great kaiju, and lo and behold, it did. Thankfully, there were also some other dinosaur kaiju in that series, so it wasn't just the only one, but being the very first Therizinosaurus Kaiju kind of makes this guy stand out. And it is also the most recent monster to actually win a Monster of the Week poll, so that kind of shows the support for this guy. Now, when it comes to merchandise, I'm just going to get this out of the way. There's not much. Being a new monster and stemming from new generation, he really has only one figure, and that is this right here. This is just the Ultra 500 Spark doll, whatever you want to call it, Bandai vinyl figure. You can get them very cheaply online at like HLJ. If you're in Japan, you can probably find them hanging up at a gas station yet, or Toys R Us if they have them. But any place you can buy like toys in Japan, you can pick these type of things up. So with that out of the way, let's get right into this here with Therizirus. After a series of weird claw marks appeared on buildings across what I believe is Tokyo, people really weren't paying very much attention, despite already knowing monsters have been fighting a weird giant red alien for the past few weeks. But who cared, right? So anyway, the claw marks just kept popping up on buildings overnight. Nobody saw anything, nobody ever heard anything, and only one little scientist lady of the name I can never remember, despite her being one of the main characters. She thinks to connect the dots and calls Serato, knowing he has some weird built-in knowledge of kaiju and not really piecing it together that he is actually the Ultraman that's been fighting all these recent giant monsters. However, upon his arrival, Serato didn't know a thing. This was a monster he was unfamiliar with. He was able to find a feather, however, by using his trademark "this smells funny" power he has whenever there's a monster around. Then, shortly afterward, the monster appeared on top of a building. It was invisible, but then became visible and jumped down and attacked. It began to eat, being one of the very few modern-day kaiju to openly eat humans. So much for being based on the herbivorous Therizinosaurus. After some really cool camera angles and shots, Serato marked a building and mocked the monster, saying it was now his territory. This just pissed off the so-called laser claw kaiju. More on that in a bit. Serato turned into Ultraman Omega and the fight was on. Despite sounding like a giant turkey having a panic attack, Therizirus was able to keep the Ultra at bay until Serato's buddy Kosai arrived and summoned his "buy this toy monster" Reckiness. Now 2-on-1, the bird did the most obvious choice it could do. It turned invisible. It then began to attack both of its enemies from all sides. Unable to see where it was, Reckiness eventually used its telekinesis to lift up rubble and vehicles. As the bird moved around, it pushed the items and revealed its location. Omega tried to attack with his Omega Slugger, but the monster just noped it out. Now, in a true panic, Reckiness communicated telepathically with what's-his-name, Kosai, and together with more glorious power granted by the Bandai gods and the mighty wisdom of "buy this toy" gimmicks, Omega gained his first of 3, or 4 if you count the turtle one that never appears in the series, armors. Despite the plastic look of the sword and armor, this battle actually still kept the episode cool. There was plenty of movement and back and forth between both monsters and heroes before the battle could come to an end. Omega throws the bird in the air with telekinesis and then used his sword to carve up the thing like a Thanksgiving turkey. If Japan had Thanksgiving. I don't know if they do. Do they have something similar? I don't know. Let me know. And that was it. It is a really cool monster. It is probably my favorite, or maybe like top 5 at least, of the new gen monsters coming post Decker or Trigger, whatever we want to call that little bookmark of new generation. It's a neat monster, as I said before, very first ever Therizinosaurus Kaiju, and it really does cool. Now, it also has a bit of a Gauss streak in where it just likes to eat people, and it's not afraid to do it in broad daylight, and that is something very refreshing for a Kaiju. We just don't see that very often anymore. As for its powers, it turns invisible. That is its main gimmick. Now, just like all Ultra monsters, it does have a subtitle, in which case this one is called the Laser Claw Kaiju. Despite that, there are no lasers coming from this thing. It does have the traditional giant claws of the Therizinosaurus that you will see in Jurassic World Dominion. It really just uses them to flop around and slash and stab at its opponents. There's no lasering or anything like that. It does manage to deflect Omega's slugger attack, but that's more of just a hand-to-hand type thing than a laser attack. Despite my own feelings of really liking this monster, I am a little bittersweet on it, mainly because it recycles the suit used for Magabasa or Bosser, whichever you want to call the bird monster that came from Ultraman Orb, and was then recycled into 2 different variants for, I believe, Ultraman Rube and then Ultraman Decker. I believe that's where they came from. I'm not 100% fluent, I guess you can call it, on new gen Kaiju. Still working on that, but I still love these things. Unfortunately, this thing will probably never come back. It hasn't been guaranteed, but there's been a lot of rumors floating around that the suit has been recycled once more for a new monster in Ultraman Tio, and if that's the case, it's a one and done monster. I'll be surprised if we ever see it again. It did pop up in a stage show where it fought Ultraman Arc. The Ultra Wiki has some great pictures of that, and it's probably the only time we're going to see it fight another Ultra besides Omega. Again, it is what it is. It's the nature of the beast. In order to keep new monsters and merchandise going, Tsuburaya always goes back and recycles the suits and gets as much out of them as possible. And unfortunately, that means a lot of cool monsters end up just getting lost. Therizirus is going to join the ranks of monsters like Helberus, where we'll probably just never see or hear them again, despite being really cool looking and unique monsters. And now for my favorite part of this, like how would this thing actually do in a wider world of monsters? If you would drop it in the most basic, which I like to think of is mid-60s, late 70s Toho, when Monster Island is set up, Therizirus is going to run amok. It would be able to take out just about anything lesser than, say, Showa Godzilla. Anguirus would probably fall, Kamacuras would fall, Kumonga, maybe. The big hiccup I see with this thing is the fact that we don't know how durable it is. It never really takes any punishment besides just some physical attacks and blocking attacks until Omega is able to actually kill it with the armored and the sword attacks. So, would Godzilla's Atomic Ray, just a default 70s blast, be able to take it out? I don't know. King Ghidorah's gravity bolts from the Showa era, Mechagodzilla space beams, anything of that sort, we don't know. I doubt it would be able to tank many shots of a Heisei beam or a G2K beam or anything like that. But it would still be a cool fight, and I would love to see this thing actually fight something else other than an Ultra, but again, it's never gonna happen. So, until next time, Kaiju fans, peace out. Join the Hugbox, vote for the next one, and Minya, take it away.
You should like and subscribe.